This is higher homework and it's practice paper B, and we're looking at question 2 in the calculator paper. So let's see what we've got to do here. So a function is defined by a set of real numbers by this function here. Show that x minus 1 is a factor of the function and hence factorise fully, and I'm going to look at 4 marks for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a synthetic division table, and I'm going to go ahead and do that just now. Okay, so because it's x minus 1, I know that x equals 1 is going to be a root, so it's going to be a 1 that's going to be outside the synthetic division. So let's go ahead and do it. And this is for part A. Right then, so I'm going to bring down the coefficients of each of these. So that's going to be a 1, minus 4, minus 7 and a 10, and I'll just do the synthetic division. So we'll bring the 1 down first of all, then multiply by the 1, gather them, multiply by 1, gather up, and multiply by the 1 again, so that's minus 10. So as expected, I've got a 0, and that there is going to be my remainder. Right, so for this one here, I'm just going to make a quick statement, and I'm just going to say that since the remainder equals 0, I'm going to say that x minus 1 is a factor, and I'll just state that x equals 1 is a root. Okay, and then from there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the function. So the function was x cubed minus 4x squared. I've got minus 7x and plus 10. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be replacing that there with the first factor that I have, which is x minus 1. And I'm going to have a trinomial that's going to come from the quotient here. So remember, that was an x cubed that it started with, so that there will be the coefficient of x squared. So what I've got is I've got an x squared minus 3x minus 10. From there I'm going to factorise out that trinomial, and what I have here is I can put that into 2 brackets, an x and an x there, and 2 numbers that multiply together to get 10 with a difference of 3, so that could be 5 and 2. So let's put the 5 and 2 down. The sign there is a negative, so one's negative, one's positive. That sign there tells me the biggest one that multiplies out is the negative. So that's me there. So that's me factorised it out fully. So I should have my 4 marks from what I have there, and let's see where I'm going to get them. So first mark for setting up this part here, so setting it up as a synthetic division with the coefficients and the number that I'm dividing by on the outside. And I'll go for a mark. The second mark will be for stating that the remainder equals to 0 and that x minus 1 is a factor. I'm then going to give 1 mark for pulling out that quotient from there into there, and finally the mark for factorising it fully. Okay, so that's the 4 marks that we've got there. I'll just bring that up a bit. Okay, so let's look at part B. So here we go. So the graph shown has equation in the form y is equal to x cubed minus 4x squared minus 7x plus 10, same as this function up above that I can see, and I have to calculate the shaded area labelled S. So that's the label, the part that's there. So one of the things I'm going to have to do first of all is to find out the roots. Okay, and all I need to do is just to solve the equation that I've just, or the function that I've factorised. So let's go and do that first of all for part B. Right then, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let y, or it'll just be f of x, equal to 0. So I'm going to substitute a 0 at that side there, and what I have is these factors. What that's going to tell me is where it crosses over the x-axis. So from here I've got x minus 1 equals 0, so there's one of my factors, x equals 1. X plus 2 equals 0, so x equals minus 2, and x minus 5 equals 0. So I've got an x equals 5. So what I can see on the diagram up above, I can see that that there is the point 5, that there will be the point 1, that there will be the point minus 2, just coming from the roots that I've got there, and that's going to help me set up my integral for working out the area of S. Right, so let's go ahead and do that just down below. Right, so what I've got is the area of S is going to be an integral, and what it's going to be is between the 1 and the 0. and what I'm going to go for is I'm going to have my x cubed minus 4x squared minus 7x plus 10, and that's all with respect to x from there. Okay. What I could have is, remember when I'm looking at that graph there and I'm trying to look at that area, what I'm really looking at is the integral between this curve here and this part here, which is the x-axis. And remember, along the x-axis, y equals 0. So when I set up that integral, I could have put a minus a 0 at the end there, and that would have set it up for me. But this is going to be acceptable here to try and work things through from there. Right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to integrate. Let's go for that. Just raise the power up, divide by a new power. Raise the power up and divide by the new power. Same again, and that will be 10x there. Put that back in the square bracket, and I'm going to integrate between 1 and 0. Okay, I'm going to substitute my values in. So if I put a 1 there, that's minus 4 times 1 cubed all over 3 minus 7 times 1 squared all over 2 plus 10 times 1 minus, and if I substituted my values in there, I would be getting 0 out. But make sure that you substitute your values in to get your values, so that you don't make a mistake with this part here. Okay, so let's work all of this out. So what I've got here is, let's see, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just convert them to 12ths as well while I work along this one. So that's going to be 3 upon 12. It's a calculator question, so you could just fire it into the calculator and work it through. 42 over 12. Let's see, and this one here, that will work out to be 10, so 10, that will be plus 120 over 12, okay? And I've got that minus 0 at the end there. If I gather them all up, what I should get is 65 over 12 units squared. And that would be my final answer for that one there. So I've got 4 marks to be gained in this part here. What I'll do is I'll get 1 mark for setting up my area and integral with the limits and having a dx on the far side there. I'd like to see all of that for the first mark. Next mark for integrating correctly. Next one for the substitution. And finally the 4th mark for getting the answer out of that part there. Right, so part C is next. And what I've got to do here is to find the total shaded area. So that would be the shaded area of T and the shaded area of S. Already worked out S, so all I need to do is to work out T, and then from there add the two of them together. So let's go ahead and do that one. And I can see that from the graph there, I can see that the integral, or the limits of integration, are going to be between 4 and 1. So I'm going to go and set that up just now. Right, so this is for part C. I'm going to go for the area of T. It's going to be equal to the integral. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to integrate between y equals 0. So I'm going to start with a 0 here. And I'm going to subtract the curve that is underneath it. So the curve that's underneath is just going to be x cubed minus 4x squared minus 7x plus 10. And all of that is with respect to x. From there, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and integrate it. So what I've got is, well, let's prepare it first, okay, and get our limits in. Right, so preparing it, I'll just take one more step, and I'll make that minus x cubed plus 4x squared plus 7x, and that's going to be minus 10. And all of that's going to be with respect to x. Right, so let's integrate it. So what we'll get is minus x to the power of 4 all over 4 plus, I've got 4x cubed all over 3 plus 7x squared all over 2 minus 10x. Okay, so it's just the same as what we did in part B, but just the signs are different. What I'm going to do is I'm going to integrate between 4 and 1. I'm going to substitute the values in for that. Right, so let's substitute the values in. So I've got minus, and that's going to be 4 to the power of 4 all over 4. I've got, let's see, plus 4 times 4 cubed all over 3. 7 times 4 squared all over 2. And minus 10 times 4. got minus, and what I could do is I could substitute the 1 in all the way here. Okay, if I substitute the 1 in, what I'll get out is I'll get 65 upon 12, because I worked it out for part B, but it would be a negative. I'd recommend that you put all your values in to make sure that you come out with that value that's there. Okay. Then if we go to the calculator and work that through, what I should get is 171 all over 4, and that's units squared. So that's the value, that's the area T on the graph. But I've been asked for the total area, so the total shaded area is equal to, and it's going to be area S plus area T, and what we've got is 65 upon 12 plus 171 all over 4, which should result in 289 all over 6 units squared. And that'll be the question complete. Let's see the marks for part C. Right, let's go for, I'll go for setting things up correctly, okay? So that would be like the upper minus the lower, and got the limits of integration in there as well. I'll just take 1 mark for working out the area of T, and then 1 final mark for working out the total shaded area. So that's where I'm going to get my marks. And this is all going to be out of 11 marks in total. 11 marks in total for that. If you have worked this out without starting with the 0 and you get a negative value there, what I'd be very keen on seeing is a good statement regarding the area cannot be negative, and making sure that the area is a positive, and making a clear statement like you've seen before. That's what I would be expecting from there. But 11 marks for that question, and that's question 2 from the calculator paper.